So in this video, I'm going to share evidence that proves that aliens are actually demons. I also used to wonder myself what aliens were, what UFOs were, and there was a time actually when I was leaning towards believing that UFOs and aliens were actually what we told they were. But as I did more digging and as I continued to grow spiritually and mentally, I then God basically showed me that aliens are actually demons, and they are preparing the world for a new world order under Satan's rule. They have been planning for this event, the coming out in the open as aliens or so-called ascended masters for a long time. The demons, Satan and his demons, have been planning to come out at some point. And Alice A. Bailey, who I mentioned in my video where I spoke about the United Nations. Alice A. Bailey was H.P. Blavatsky's protege. She wrote a book called The Externalization of the Hierarchy. And in this book, the hierarchy she's talking about are demons. And she said the hierarchy will manifest themselves physically in 2025. So today is actually the 12th of March 2025. So far, yeah, nothing has happened, but we'll see what will happen this year. But Alice A. Bailey said that these demons, she didn't call them demons, but she called them the hierarchy, that they were going to manifest themselves, and manifest means to show themselves physically. She predicted that they were going to show themselves in 2025, which is the year we're in right now.
Demonic hierarchy being manifested in the year 2025, and how this has been planned for a long period of time by witches and Satanists in the United Nations, in corporations like the Lucius Trust, and how we can expect big things to start occurring in the year 2025. In fact, as we all saw, many false flags and psychological operations are already underway. And Alice Bailey was the founder of the Lucius Trust and is the one who wrote The Externalization of the Hierarchy, which was written in the year 1957, which specifically talked about the year 2025 being the years where major changes will take place in the New World Order hierarchy. So, again, Alice Bailey was a very influential occultist, much like Aleister Crowley. In fact, both of them were members of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Alice Bailey wrote The Initiation, Human and Solar, a book that is associated with the Golden Dawn. And Alice Bailey, who is the founder of Lucius Trust, was once called, the Lucius Trust was once called Lucifer's Publishing Company. And they have a direct correlation to the United Nations. In fact, the United Nations worked directly with the Lucius Trust and continues to work directly with the Lucius Trust. And this is what was written in Alice Bailey's book, The Externalization of the Hierarchy. It is important to listen to this because this is what the plan has been, and we can see how they've been putting the pieces in place for a major deception to occur. Obviously, I'm referencing Donald Trump being put into power for the year 2025 and him playing into the Christian conservative audience. We are going to see major events and major sabotage occurring starting in the year 2025. So Alice Bailey wrote this: "Thus, a great and new movement is proceeding, and tremendously increased interplay and interaction is taking place. This will go on until AD 2025. During the years intervening between now, 1957, and then, very great changes will be seen taking place. And at the great assembly of the hierarchy held as usually every century, in 2025, the date in all probability will be set for the first stage of the externalization of the hierarchy. The present cycle from now until that date is called technically the stage of the forerunner. It is preparatory in nature, testing in its methods, and intended to be revelatory in its techniques and results. You can see, therefore, that Chauhan's masters, initiates, world disciples, and aspirants affiliated with the hierarchy are all at this time passing through a cycle of great activity. And again, Alice Bailey and the United Nations are tied at the hip.
A former Nazi scientist named Werner von Braun, who worked for Hitler producing rockets, went to the US under Operation Paperclip. So Operation Paperclip basically was an operation where the United States allowed Nazi engineers and scientists to move to the US, and they obviously were protected from prosecution. They had the Nuremberg trials. A lot of these Nazis were basically protected by the US, and then they moved to the US, where they basically worked for the US government. So Werner von Braun was one of these Nazi scientists, and he ended up working for NASA. Von Braun told his assistant that one of the final plays to bring in a new world order would be a fake alien invasion.
When I was a corporate manager of Fairchild Industries in 1974 through 77, I met the late Dr. Werner von Braun in early 74. At that time, von Braun was dying of cancer, but he assured me that he would live a few more years in order to tell me about the game that was being played, that game being the effort to weaponize space, to control the Earth from space and space itself. Von Braun's purpose in life during the last years of his life, his dying years, was to educate the public and decision makers about why space-based weapons are a dumb, dangerous, destabilizing, too costly, unnecessary, unworkable, undesirable idea. The strategy that Werner von Braun taught me was that first the Russians are going to be considered to be the enemy. In fact, when I met him in 74, they were the enemy, the identified enemy. We were told that they had killer satellites. We were told that they were coming to get us and control us, the dirty commies, that whole story. First, the Russians were the enemy against whom we're going to build space-based weapons. Then terrorists would be identified, and that was soon to follow. We heard a lot about terrorism. Then we were going to identify third world country crazies. We now call them nations of concern. But he said that would be the third enemy against whom we would be needing to build space-based weapons. And the next enemy was asteroids. Now at this point, he kind of chuckled the first time he said it. Asteroids, against asteroids we're going to build space-based weapons. So it was funny then. And the funniest one of all was against what he called aliens, extraterrestrials. That would be the final card. And over and over and over during the 4 years that I knew him and was giving his speeches for him, he would bring up that last card. And remember, Carol, the last card is the alien card. We're going to have to build space-based weapons against aliens, and all of it, he said, is a lie.